course, Kephart spoke of it, and so did Nessie.
What kind of tree is this here?
This here is called the yield tree.
Yield tree.
You see them only in urban areas and built-up areas.
Another invasive species.
Yeah. Right here you have the dogwood. There's several different species of dogwood. Some of them still have the flowers, remnants of flowers left, but they're the ones that have the big white flowers, the little red spots on each petal. And now the dogwood is a very hard wood. They would use the trunk of the dogwood and cut it into sections and make wedges, like the iron wedges used with the sledgehammer to split wood. Well, they would use the dogwood for that because it's very, very hard. And they would make the wedges and other hard use items like that. And they would, they would split logs down the middle to make boards and whatnot. So they would, usually they didn't have iron. If they did, they might have one wedge. Then they would cut several more out of the dogwood. And dogwood generally gets about 30 feet. It's an understory tree. The other trees grow above it, and it grows under. So it's always a smaller tree. They may get this big around, maybe a little larger, but they're not a very big tree. But they have some beautiful flowers on them, and some good wood. You can use wood very implements like that. All these blue flowers here. This plant is called Heal-All. And when you go to identify these plants, the best thing to do is get you a book with good pictures and have the scientific name and everything. Because what we call Heal-All here in Missouri, you guys might call it something else. Might have a different name, common name. But I've mostly heard it called Heal-All. It's a member of the mint family. And if you'll notice, pass this around, it has square stems. Roll that between your fingers. It's got square stems. Most members of the mint family have square stems. That's one way to identify them. And that horehound candy that Mason has horehound is a member of the mint family. And there's several. You have the mountain mint, the horse mint. There's several different species of mint. And you can take mint and make tea out of it, obviously, and do various, it has medicinal use to it as well as edible. Some of the mints are not edible, so that's why you need to identify it properly. But the Heal-All is a very good medicinal plant, and if you get you one of those good like Peterson's or do some research, you'll find out all that it's supposed to, what it's supposed to do. A lot of it's used for like headaches, gastrointestinal problems, sore throats, things like that. You can use the plant and mash it up real good, mix it with some water, and you gargle that. It's supposed to be good for a sore throat. So if anybody wants to try that sometime, see what you think about it. If you get a sore throat, hope you don't get a sore throat, but if you do, you can try that. And let's see what we've got over here. This is a little different than the other white oak. But as you can see, it's got the rounded, scalloped edges. There's no points to it. And this is also a white oak, which is good, like I said before, for the tool handles and things like that. And if you can get a shot of the bark over here, like most white oaks have a fairly light-colored bark like this. This is kind of a younger tree. It doesn't have a lot of scales on it yet, but you'll notice some other white oak trees that we've had. Once you start to learn to identify these things, it becomes easier to recognize them after a while.
This one goes back to that tree behind you.
That goes to this branch right here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're looking at a tulip poplar.
How can I figure say this one? It's got points on it.
Yeah, this is the tulip poplar here.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Now this is called the Scotch pine. It's different than the white pine. It has much shorter needles. The needles on the white pine are generally 3 to 5 inches. This is an inch to maybe 3 inches. A little different species of pine. About as useful as any of the pines. It's pretty similar. You get your pitch from it. You make your tea from the needles and things like that. How's it taste? Add a little sugar to it. Tastes like Mr. Clean pine sauce.
What's the tea good for?
The tea has vitamin C in it. Actually, it's like, from what I read, 2 or 3 times the amount of vitamin C that orange juice has.
Gotcha. And you take the green needles.
You take the green needles and steep them as tea. And see, the Native Americans taught the settlers that taught the Appalachian people to use pine to make that tea because they would eat a lot of meat and everything and not get the vitamins, so they would develop scurvy and things like that. So they said, make some pine needle tea, and it cured that like that. There's a vitamin deficiency. This here is a red oak. That's what you have at home. There's several different species of red oak, but you can always identify a red oak. See how these leaves are pointy at the end? That doesn't come off. It's pointy at the end like that. All your red oaks have points on the end, and the leaves are more deeply cut like that.
Almost like it's got thorns on it.
Almost like it has thorns.
What if the pod's hanging off of it?
You know, that's something I have not seen before. And I was curious about that myself. Maybe we'll take one of these off and cut it open.
Several of them on that tree, they're on the higher limbs too.
I think it's either
I've seen them before,
an
but not that
insect
many on one tree.
that like
I fixed to say, I thought acorns
in the pod, or some kind of like a fungus, like some of these trees that get the bracket funguses. I'm not sure what this is, but I'm going to do a little research and find out. Because that's something I haven't seen before over in my neck of the woods. Very interesting. I've seen another tree over here that had that.
We've got a red oak where I grew up, and I've never seen it.
Really? I haven't either. That's some type of fungus that I read about that last year. I'm not sure what it is, but I read an article about it, and it's a fungus. Right here, this is a shrub. You go in Roan Mountain, Tennessee, they have them all over the mountain. These are your, you have in the Appalachians, I don't know where you guys live, but you get in those deep coves and valleys, there's a lot of rhododendrons and azaleas. And they are, when they bloom out, you can see the flowers here forming right here. When they bloom out, man, they are gorgeous. Just beautiful pink and white flowers everywhere. The whole shrub, it'll make the mountainside look like it's on fire. Just color, very beautiful. These are poisonous. You can't use them for anything as far as I know. Everything that I've read says that they're toxic, so you can't use them except for, you know, the beauty aspect of it. Here you have a small maple tree. And the maple tree is a very good tree. You can tell the red maple because usually the leaf stems, the leaf stalk has a reddish tinge to it, and the red maples. Find a bigger leaf here. Well, if I can hang on to it. The red maple has jagged saw-cut edges, and it's got the points like this, usually 3, sometimes 5. If you count these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of like a hand shape. And they're usually darker green on top and lighter olive green on the bottom. Some of you may have a silver maple in your yard, and it'll be silvery under here. And if you break the branch on a silver maple, it's supposed to be kind of smelly, stinky, not a pleasant odor. So if you got
Remember that smell well?
if you've got a silver maple, you might try that.
Smell it. It smells fruity.
It does, doesn't it? Something growing inside
That's a
of it.
fungus of some kind.
It's not a fruit or nut growing on the tree. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's some kind of fungus.
It's probably waiting for a human to eat it so that it can
Burst out of our
gestate.
stomach.
Try it and let us know. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Baby alien.
If you're not dead by nightfall, it's
But it does smell fruity.
it looks like some kind of citrus
Flower bud. It is, isn't it?
It's not citrus, but it's
It does smell
You know, that
fruity.
shrub was reminding me of the leaves of a camphor tree, but I don't see many around here. Do you guys have them in Appalachia?
Yeah, my hand.
I've read about it once or twice. I have never identified it. in my area,
Okay.
and I'm not sure of its native region, but I'll eventually find out one day.
We have them in Florida. Though.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. You can tell by
And
the
it's
leaves.
we probably don't then. There's not much in Florida that we have except for some oaks and of course the pines. Now this right here is what I wanted to get to. Does anybody know what kind of tree this is?
No, but we've got those at home.
Kind of a
Cypress, maybe?
spruce. This is a tree that's dying out by the millions.
Ash?
Oh, the beetles.
Hemlock.
Okay.
Hemlock tree. It's generally a cool climate, a cool weather climate tree. You'll find them in the deep hollers and in the backwoods where it's cool and damp and somewhat dark. They're not an open sun tree. And what's killing these trees off is something called the woolly, if I can pronounce this right, the woolly agildid, I think it's what it is. And if you look at the where the needles attach to the branches on a tree that's infected, it'll have little white powdery looking spots. That's the insect. It attaches itself at the base of the needles and sucks the juice, the sap out. And after it does that, these needles fall off. And so if enough needles fall off, they can't produce food for themselves. You know, the food and the sunlight and everything. So they will slowly, over a period of 2 to 3 years, they'll die. And as you travel through the Appalachians or this region going home, and you see big swaths of brown, dead-looking trees, more than likely that's the hemlock. It's an invasive species, again, that we've imported through shipping crates and whatever, that got on these and it's killing them out. It's going to kill millions upon hundreds of millions of them. And it's similar to the chestnut blight back in the 20s and 30s. It killed all the chestnut trees. The American chestnut was one of the most popular trees in this area. There was billions of them, and they used them to make all kinds of stuff with. And it was very rot resistant as well, but they're all dead now, except for a few stumps you can find with some offshoots coming from it. They'll live 2 or 3 years and die. Have another shoot come up. So there's some remnants left. And the Chestnut Foundation has been working on crossbreeding these trees with the Chinese chestnut. And they're breeding out all the Chinese part of it except for the blight resistance. And if you look up on the internet, the American Chestnut Foundation, I think, and they'll explain about their breeding program and how they're bringing the chestnut back. And so, you know, I've donated to that a couple times, and I'd love to see the chestnut.
Is there different types of chestnut trees?
You have the horse chestnut and the American chestnut, the Chinese chestnut, and they have the nut capsule that's all hairy-like on the
I've
outside.
seen some of those, and I didn't know the difference. I knew that with the American chestnut.
Yeah, it's not here anymore. Horse chestnut, maybe some imported Chinese chestnuts that have escaped cultivation, and they're out in the woods. You can find them as well.
Poisonous?